So my name is Liz, and I'm the program manager for Eco Urban Gardens. And thank goodness I went through this program at Gratz because I was in way over my head with this job. So I'm going to get into a little bit about the history of the organization, how we've sort of transitioned our programmatics into a virtual space as a result of the pandemic, and then all the tools that sort of directly led into this that I learned in my nonprofit business management program that helped me get through this really tough time. So our organization was started in 2015, December of 2015. We essentially were working with another organization, a farm in South LA, and we had a lot of requests from local schools who said, we really want your program, but we can't afford to bring our kids to the farm. So right away, we decided to start writing grants to see if we could find money to either start busing kids to the farm or to start bringing the program to them. And luckily, we got a grant right away from a local architecture firm. And that was our very first school was at Arroyo High School in El Monte. So since that first garden, we've expanded to 2 other schools in that district with a plan to expand to all 6 high schools in that district, as well as their middle schools. We also began working with homeschool students. So I work with charter schools and homeschools where I either go directly to the house of the student and work with them one-on-one, or we do like a group class where a couple kids can come to the farm and learn together for like a Saturday morning workshop. So that's all of our educational programmatics. And we also, so that's called the Farm to School program. And we also have something called Farm to Table, which is directly catered to homeowners and businesses. So the idea with Farm to Table is that if you wanted to start growing vegetables in your backyard or on your patio, you would have an Eco Urban Garden staff member come to your house or your business and do a consultation and either set that up for you or give you the tools to do it yourself. So with all of that, so our main 2 programs, Farm to School and Farm to Table, are combating food insecurity in LA. So let's talk a little bit about what food insecurity is. So some of you are probably familiar with this term because I started learning about it living in Philadelphia. It's certainly an issue that Philadelphia also faces. A food desert is essentially a neighborhood or an area that has little or no access to fresh organic produce. And not necessarily even organic, but just access to inexpensive fresh produce. That's fruits, vegetables, and herbs. So what causes a food desert is a lot of different factors, but it's particularly relevant right now with the BLM movement. Racism is a very big part of it. So I can't speak for Philadelphia, but from LA, the neighborhoods where I'm working in are primarily immigrant families. They're mostly Latino, and most of my students are DACA or first generation. So right away, these families are already struggling. They probably have low paying jobs. Most 80 to 90% of my students are on a nutrition program that's either discounted or free. And you can look at a map, like if you look at a Google map and you type in supermarkets to a neighborhood, you'll see which neighborhoods have a Whole Foods and a Trader Joe's and an Acme, and can't remember the Philadelphia supermarket brands, but you get what I'm saying. And in the food desert areas, you will find maybe 1 supermarket within like a 5 to 10 mile radius. So that means if you don't have a car and you're relying on public transportation, it's difficult for you to feed your family. You can't walk to the grocery store. You can't ride your bike to the grocery store. You kind of need a car, which makes it very difficult. So a lot of families end up eating whatever's near them, which is like from a fast food restaurant or like a local corner store that probably maybe sells a couple fruits and vegetables, but nothing with any real nutrition. So how Eco Urban Gardens works to fight this food desert issue that we're facing is by investing in the communities. So a recent study by the LA Parks Department showed that the community where we're working, it's called El Monte, it's about 20 minutes southeast of downtown Los Angeles, has 0.08 acres of park space per every 1,000 residents. Now, I know that's a weird number to throw out, but for example, the community where I live in Pasadena has 8 acres per 1,000 residents. So the park space and the green space in the community is pretty much non-existent in El Monte. So how that factors into the health of the community is that the air quality is worse. The temperature is higher. There's something called the urban heat island effect, where when everyone is using their air conditioners and there's a lot of concrete and paved surfaces and nothing to absorb the heat, it makes the temperature in the whole community higher. So when we have a 105-degree day in Pasadena, it's a 115-degree day in El Monte. So because of the zoning laws and the immigration policies and the housing crisis and all these different political factors that created the food desert, what's resulted after decades and decades of this continuing is that the health effects are way worse in that community. So whereas in Pasadena, I'm able to walk to a grocery store, I can walk to a park, the temperature is cooler, I can go outside more often, the air quality is better, it encourages me to exercise and eat healthier. Whereas in El Monte, they don't have all of those different things available to them. So what ends up happening is certain diseases become very prevalent in those communities. So now, after many decades, we're seeing high rates of diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes in children, and obesity. So which also leads to a bunch of other chronic illnesses later in life, like cancer risk and heart disease and other chronic illnesses that a lot of my students will end up facing. So now that we've identified the public health crisis and what's causing it, the next step is, okay, how do we fix it? So how Eco Urban Gardens decided to face this issue was by working with hospitals. So we're working with 2 major hospitals in South LA, City of Hope, which is a cancer research center, and Kaiser Permanente, which is focusing on reducing diabetes and also chronic illness, especially in children. So apart from the regular nutrition service that the students get in the school, we noticed there was very little to no education around food or how food affects your body and how food affects your brain. So apart from just students having to worry about getting cancer in their 60s, they're also worrying about, okay, am I getting enough nutrients that's feeding my brain so that I can do well on a test score and I can be in an AP class and I can have a good GPA and get into a college if I want to. So health affects everything. It affects your studies, it affects your family life, it affects long-term how you're living your life. It can even affect your job. If you have, if you're having health issues, you might not be able to work a full-time job. So the health issue affects more than just health. It's also affecting economics. It's affecting the future of these students' lives. I feel like I got a little off track here. So let's go back to Eco Urban Gardens and what we're doing to combat food insecurity. So with our program, we go into a school, we pick a space to create a garden, we get all the funding together to start constructing the garden. And then we provide a teacher and a curriculum to help incorporate the students. So right now we're working just as an extracurricular. So students who are in the culinary arts program or engineering or woodshop can come during class time to the garden to learn about soil health and construction and engineering. And then we also have an after-school program that meets every day from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. And then we're also teaching workshops on Saturday mornings that are open to the community. So we're not just educating the students, we're also educating the parents and the families of the surrounding community. That's really key, because how many teenagers do you know that go to school and they're like, come home and they're like, I learned about vitamin C today? No, that's definitely not happening. So it has to be a whole family education.